What the fuck are you even doing here? Sir! I got lost on the way to college, sir!
Hi, I'm Daryl, and I'm a realist, also known as a flat earther.
That doesn't make sense.
One thing that we deal with as being flat earthers is the scientific community. We'll post pictures, memes, we'll post videos, we'll post facts, figures, different experiments that have been conducted in the past, but not so much recently. And that often results in people saying that we're discredited because we don't have any scientific backing for
Ding, ding, ding! What do we have for her, Johnny?
what we believe, although there's tons of evidence.
No!
So, what I'd like to do is submit a new experiment to the scientific community.
Go on.
This is very simple. A lot of people don't fly a whole lot. I fly fairly regularly, at least every other month.
Good for you!
And one thing that anybody can do, this is a simple experiment that anybody can conduct to determine definitely that the earth is flat. You know, grab $10, go down to your local hardware store, pick up one of these spirit levels. Doesn't have to be this brand. I'm not getting paid by Swanson to promote. Grab a spirit level and take it on the plane with you. Now, I say take it on the plane because if we're living on a spinning ball or a globe that's 25,000 miles in circumference around the equator, according to curvature math, then the plane should be constantly dipping its nose forward in order to compensate for the curvature regularly during flights. But I don't know anybody who's actually reported that happening, and thus far it's just been speculation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my spirit level onto the plane and prop it to a point to where it's level, and I'm going to record the fact that the bubble stays perfectly centered. And while that bubble staying perfectly centered, it's going to be rather anticlimactic, but that's proof that the earth is flat.
D. Marble is attempting to answer a straw man question. That straw man being,
Then the plane should be constantly dipping its nose forward in order to compensate for the curvature regularly during flights.
this supposed dip is therefore evidence that the earth is, in fact, a globe. I call this argument a straw man because the claim that a plane should dip as it flies over the earth, and this dipping is evidence of a globe, is not something said by those arguing for a globe. It is not used as evidence because those that accept a globe do not expect a plane to account for the curvature of the earth when flying. Furthermore, we know why a plane would not have to worry about dipping its nose as it flies. A couple links below for you to read. The foundation of proper science is asking a good question. Flat earthers do not ask good questions. Therefore, they do not perform proper science. But, for sake of conversation, let's examine D. Marble's experiment to see how robust it could actually be in Bizarro World.
Up is down, down is up. He says hello when he leaves, goodbye when he arrives.
We're going to be on a A321 airplane. Max speed for that is 541 miles per hour. I'm going to do a 20-minute time lapse. That should cover about, let's say around 180 miles. If we're going 180 miles over a curved surface, or over the curved Earth, as curvature math suggests, then that means there should be compensation for over 4 miles of curvature. So, that's the experiment. I'll keep you posted. Stay tuned. Now that the plane's at cruising altitude, let's start the time lapse.
A scientific experiment not only requires precise instruments and measurements, but also an understanding of what you are measuring and what your measurements mean. D. Marble's experiment fails at all these criteria. For starters, a spirit level does not measure in units of
Be compensation for over 4 miles of curvature.
It gives at best, a very rough approximation of how level something is relative to the Earth. D. Marble would also need to calculate how much the plane would need to dip to account for the curvature of the Earth, a calculation he did not do.
This game is called Do the Math, okay? But don't let that scare you. Even though I'm no good at math, I can still play this game.
If D. Marble did calculate the expected dip, he would then need an instrument capable of measuring said dip to the degree of accuracy required of the calculation. Would the plane need to dip a degree off horizontal, half a degree, a tenth of a degree? Somehow I doubt a...
Pick up one of these spirit levels. Doesn't have to be this brand. I'm not getting paid by Swanson to promote.
Can measure dip with that much precision. The sad part is, even if D. Marble did all this work, he is still attacking his own strawman argument. A commercial plane does not have to actively account for the curvature of the Earth as it flies.
Alright, back in Seattle. You saw it here. I decided to go ahead and do 23 minutes on the time lapse. And if my calculations are correct, that should have brought us over right around a little over 200 miles that we covered. And as you saw, there was no compensating for curvature. So I guess that pretty much settles it. The Earth is flat.
You poor, ugly thing, you.
Help me! I'm so ashamed! I'm spiraling! I'm spiraling! Thanks, Patrick.